Hey everyone, it's Lauren Conlon of Pop Crime TV and the Outlier podcast. Today, we are diving into one of the most explosive docuseries of the year, The Fall of Diddy. This is a gripping 4-part docuseries premiering today or tonight on Investigation Discovery. It's January 27th. And the second half premieres tomorrow on January 28th, with episodes available to stream on Max after. This series, like I said, it has been highly anticipated, and it takes a deep dive into the decades-long rise and fall of Sean Diddy Combs, featuring never before seen interviews, unseen archival footage, and just firsthand testimonies from those who claim to have witnessed or experienced his alleged violence, abuse, and misconduct. And guys, I thought I had seen or at least read it all, but no, you need to see the faces of the people directly involved to fully understand their sheer terror and the alleged damage that's been done, but also you have to see their strength. It's just incredible. So joining me today are the brilliant minds behind this docuseries, Emma Schwartz and Yoruba Richen, the filmmakers who worked tirelessly to bring this controversial story to the screen. And Emma is known for her deep investigative journalism and one of my favorite docuseries, Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV. And Yoruba is also a celebrated director with a long history of tackling really hard-hitting subjects. And she directed multiple episodes of another one of my favorite docuseries, Black and Missing, which is also on HBO Max. So we're going to be discussing everything about this project. I just cannot wait to speak with them. So let me bring them in right now. And I can make this, a little bit better. Here we go. Here we go. We are all equal here. Hi, Emma. Hi, Yoruba. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. Thank you for having us.
Of course. I have watched this docuseries from start to finish. And as I said in my intro, I thought I knew it all. But the hairs on my arms were standing on end at some of these stories. Now, Emma, I'm going to start with you. I want to ask you, was it difficult to navigate whose testimonies you put into this documentary, since technically Diddy has not been convicted of anything?
Well, I think a good place to start is an understanding that this docuseries began, well over a year ago. In fact, we'd been talking with people in sort of the broader industry before Cassie's lawsuit was even filed. This is before Quiet on Set even came out. And, we were starting to understand that there was a lot more going on. And after Cassie's lawsuit came out, it sort of was a moment in which, we began to understand more people were starting to come forward. There might be more people who had been holding back. And it was sort of a moment that we thought we could start to dive a lot deeper. And, it's around that time that we partnered with Yoruba, who has an incredible background in this. And it's a difficult story. And Yoruba, I'll let you jump in onto sort of the why of that.
Yeah, it's difficult for so many reasons. I mean, one thing is that it's unfolding, right? Even it continues to unfold until this day. But because of who Diddy is, his power, his influence, his stature, especially in the Black community, it makes people very it's hard for people to come forward. It's hard to go up against somebody with that much power and influence, and especially in the African-American community, when we have so few people of his stature, few Black billionaires like he was, there's a resistance to wanting to bring him down, so to speak. So it's very, very difficult. But I think that, as these events continue to unfold, as people held on to these, these alleged abuses for so long, it was really the time. And as someone says, as one of our interviewees says in the piece, who knew that Cassie would be the one to sort of open the floodgates.
Agreed. And in the docuseries, you really see the reasoning behind people not coming forward, because how many times do you hear, oh, you're in an abusive relationship. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't she do this? Well, you don't freaking know. You're not in that position. How would you know how they feel? Or, all of the moving pieces that surround what's going on. And I felt like every person that shared their story, their reasoning for maybe not coming forward earlier or not going to the hospital or whatever it might be, I was like, yes, as a woman, and even as a male, but for me, obviously, I'm a woman, so I'm like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. And you really feel for them, guys. You really are like, you've been living with this for so long, this shame, because of who he is and the power that he had. And this is not an exaggeration. He had power. And what you two do is you go through his history actually in court and with the law, and how he just seems to have evaded the law for so long, which is truly incredible. But I want to go to Talia Graves, because her story, I mean, I believe her. I believe everything she said, and I had tears in my eyes when she was sharing her story. However, I couldn't ignore what came out in October of 2024, which is where she has this ex-boyfriend that alleges that she tried to bribe him to corroborate. Do you guys know anything about that? Have you spoken to her off the record about this? And this is just an allegation. So.
Yeah, look, Thalia, I think anyone who comes forward with, to tell about trauma is very courageous and brave. It's not easy. And it's especially difficult when talking about experiences that are so horrifying and so difficult. And I think we certainly felt that in the interview room with her that day. I think, it's always difficult for people to come forward with their stories. And, there's always going to be people who come it's not everyone is going to be believed. There's always going to be accusations and allegations. And, a lot of what we really focused on in this series is, looking at the stories where, we could talk to other people who had, they had told, where there's additional backup, where there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes with the work that we do in terms of fact checking and corroborating that you don't necessarily see on the screen, but it gives us sort of a measure of comfort that, we can verify people's stories, that they've told other people, or they have contemporaneous documentation. It depends on the circumstance. But that's a really important part of our practice.
Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to add to that,
Yoruba?
Yeah.
I'll add is that it's so important to look at, yes, this is the story of Diddy and his allegations of abuse and power, but we have seen this abuse and happening with powerful people, especially in the last number of years, but over time, and of women and men being abused and not coming forward, being retaliated against when they do. So this is, I just want to, just add that this is a societal issue. This is a societal problem. And, you mentioned, why do women come back? Why do they get, why a lot of times they come back because they're smeared or they're retaliated against or they're called liars. We have seen this over and over again as a society. And, I think it's, playing into these events as well.
Right. And how did you gain the trust of everybody that you were interviewing? I mean, I've been a part of some of these shows before, and you do have something in the back of your mind. And I'm just a commentator where I'm like, oh gosh, I hope that doesn't get misinterpreted in any type of way. Just because, like I said, this is so sensitive right now. Lawsuits left and right. And now Diddy is trying to throw out his loss. It's crazy. So how did you gain the trust of these people?
Well, one thing is, we both have experience in making these kinds of films, these kinds of programs. And for me, I'll speak for myself, it's really the empathy. I mean, that's why I do this work, where, if someone agrees and wants to speak out, and a lot of times I find people want to speak out, even if it's hard, um, wanting to have them tell their story in the way that they want to tell their story, assuring them that, and it's also by looking at, past work, obviously, what have you done in the past that makes me trust you? But assuring them that we're going to tell their story in a way that is empathetic and that is journalistically sound, as Emma said, but also empathetic and gets at the truth as much as we can. And having empathy as a person, I think, really just goes a long way in creating trust in our relationships with participants.
Yeah, and something you guys did that I thought was great was that it wasn't all Diddy's horrible, Diddy's this. You actually highlighted his accomplishments, what he's been able to do. And you also included, I believe it was Mara, of one of the journalists, who said, I didn't have a bad experience with Diddy, but that's just me. So it's not, while we have a very large group of people who have experienced one thing, you also have another side. I mean, I guess it was really just one person, but still, she said it. She's like, I worked with him a lot and everything was fine. So I thought that was really interesting. And it also was really important to shine a light on that. Now, was there anyone that you interviewed that you were just like, whoa, I thought I knew, but really I had no idea?
I mean, a lot. There were many parts of the stories that were incredibly revealing and that were shocking. I would say, you mentioned Thalia's. There were others that revealing the details of what happened to them, allegedly what happened to them. I mean, I was pretty floored by hearing these stories and making this film.
And I'll say one thing, one of the questions that, we had early on was, both this question of how far back do the allegations go, but we started to hear about that sort of early on in this process because some of the lawsuits went back into the early 90s, very early on. What I think was a sort of powerful moment in our understanding was when we got to know Kat, because her experience came after Cassie, right? And we know that after that hotel video, that brutal hotel video, which came out on a day that we were actually filming interviews. And
wow.
That obviously then led to Diddy putting out his video, saying he's sorry, saying this was just a low point in my life, right? And the question was like, was that really just the case? And when you look at what Kat went through, it's not as extensive as the allegations that Cassie makes. It definitely raises questions about, the patterns of behavior that people have alleged, even up to very recent times.
Right. No, totally. And I think that you provided a lot of context around things. I mean, I think a lot of us knew there was a woman during the nightclub shooting in 1999 who, was shot in the face. But what we didn't know is that, or I guess me personally, I didn't know that she was shamed and, I mean, dragged. And that's when you're like, society it's just disgusting. Are you kidding me? So this woman has a near-death experience. She's traumatized. I mean, she's just telling the truth, and she's dragged and shamed for it. And allegedly, Sean Combs is aware of this. I mean, but what does he care? He was, acquitted. He's off living his life. And it really makes you sick to your stomach. And not only that, I'm just thinking about fleeing the scene of this shooting, being J-Lo, being Diddy, and just not even looking back, not even giving a crap about the carnage you may have caused. And it makes you think. It really makes you think, like, what is wrong with people? I just, we are all equal human beings, regardless of our status. But when it comes to these people like Sean Combs, it just seems like, and again, you guys did a wonderful job. Sorry, I'm all over the place, but I was just so impressed. Like you you really showed us his childhood, and that maybe Janice Combs had a lot to do with this. And God, you guys, such a good get with his childhood friend, who also, you know, shows us that he didn't have necessarily an easy childhood with his mom. I mean, were you guys surprised by that?
Yeah, I mean, I think having some, as you say, context about how you know, Sean Combs grew up is really important. I mean, that shapes, of course, that shapes who you are. And Tim did an amazing job in painting a picture of what that time was like, what that situation, that circumstance, and he actually did it with, you know, much, you know, not in an accusatory way, but of trying to understand how this person became the person that he is. And so that was very important to us.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine, you know, your mom kind of being like, your groceries are gone. Don't come home until, you know, you beat the crap out of everybody who beat you up, or whatever it might be. It's just, it's crazy. And yeah, you see a lot of, I feel like you see a lot of his behavior reflected from his childhood, based on the way he treats people, based on, you know, what I heard. I mean, it's just, it's it's heartbreaking, but and you want to say that it's so unbelievable, but it's not. It's not, when you hear person after person corroborating the same type of behavior. And you know, it's time. It's time that he does his time, if that makes sense, you know. But I also want to go to D Woods, because I loved Danity Kane. I grew up listening to them, so it really made me sad to hear her say that she can't even listen to a Danity Kane song. I mean, what was your reaction, I guess, initially to her story and everything that she had to say? And this is for Emma or Yoruba, which I'm sorry, I should point to you guys, but Emma, please. Yeah. Or
I mean, well, I guess I'll start with just say, like, I was just incredibly moved by her. You know, I think to know that something that was so meaningful for her is now so painful because of, you know, what she went through is sad. It's very sad.
yeah.
And one thing that struck me, again, Danny Kane was a little past my time, but understanding how talented these women were, and how they really were working to, you know, become a successful band, and were successful, and seeing that denigration kind of go, you know, looking back again at that footage and seeing how they were treated, and how, you know, how we as a society accepted that. This is, you know, it's also an indictment on what we accept in terms of treatment of people. I mean, that was right there on our television sets. And she was, you know, incredibly, you know, moving and emotional, and really talking about it publicly for the first time.
Yeah. And she's
young,
someone.
so young.
Yeah.
What was it? Sorry.
They were so young. They were 19, 20, and 21. I mean, like,
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting because we haven't heard from her. You know, we haven't heard from her at all. And I guess I remember that time, we, you know, the media called Jessica Simpson fat. It was ridiculous. And you
Yeah.
look back, and I remember watching it, him saying she's one cheeseburger. What the hell? I mean,
Totally.
and that is acceptable, I guess. And so I just, you know, and the Aubrey thing, I mean, did you try to get in touch with Aubrey? Because I'm surprised she hasn't spoken out.
it's really difficult for people to speak out about, you know, traumatic experiences. And, you know, we always do our best to try to bring everyone forward to the table.
Yeah.
But everyone's at a different place.
And I feel like she was trying to speak out, and maybe that was the issue, that nobody was listening, or nobody seemed to be listening at the time. And I think that's something that society probably has to live with, truly, is that Aubrey was trying to tell us, and we were like, yeah, okay, well, I don't know. And I feel like people that I've interviewed, you know, I just, not relating to Diddy's story, but I interviewed John Sally, the NBA player, and I also interviewed somebody else, another rapper, I'm drawing a blank, but I asked them about Diddy, and, they don't directly answer the question about if they were surprised about these allegations, but what they go for is that Diddy helps everybody out. He donates to all these charities, what he's done for the Black community. And I'm just like, okay, but multiple things can be true. And I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. I don't know if you agree.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, we see this with Diddy. We see this in other circumstances. Oh, they've done this, that for the entertainment industry. They've had women win, Academy Awards. They have, donated to Vote or Die. All these things that people say, I guess exonerates them in their head, or thinks that they can't do anything wrong if they've done one thing. But right, multiple things are true at the same time. That's life, and that's people, and especially people in power who have money. We see it over and over and over again, and people make excuses for it.
Yeah, and in many ways, that's what makes Diddy's story truly an American story about so many powerful individuals. His has unique qualities to his own experience, but there are many powerful people who, rise to power, abuse that power, but have still had an impact on society. And there's this bigger question: what do we tolerate? And I think, that is an underlying question beyond the specifics of this one individual.
Yes,
will they be held accountable? The jury is still out, so to speak.
Right. And I think that, like you guys had mentioned this too, just about Cassie really just taking the lead here. And I think what she did, I know she probably doesn't care, but I mean, I'm like, she deserves an award. She deserves what she did for so many other people. I don't think she truly comprehends, just because she, it was just so difficult in so many ways, everything that she's endured. And I'm sure she just wants to move forward. She just wants to look ahead. And I get that. And so she probably wouldn't even want an award, but I know it just sounds nuts, but it's like, what can we do as a society for Kathy? Because I mean, it was time that this had come to an end. And you're hearing, even Diddy's chef talk about this stuff. And, we've all had horrible bosses, right? And we all can relate to a degree of the stomach aches we got and just not sleeping, but nothing like this. I mean, nothing. So what do you guys hope that audiences take away from this docuseries?
Well, I hope that, we've talked too about how as society we have let things happen. We've excused behavior. We've rewarded bad behavior. We've dismissed people's stories. And hopefully this docuseries, I would like for people to really take a step back and see how we as a society can be complicit in these, in these abuses, and what we can do to make sure, everybody deserves their day in court, absolutely, but make sure that we are hearing and really listening to people who speak out against abuse, and giving them, the listening to them and giving them a fair hearing and listening to their stories before dismissing them or making excuses.
Yes. Emma, do you have anything to add to that?
I was going to say, Yoruba put it so well. I would just echo that. So
yeah, and just really quickly, hearing from Roger Bonds, it's interesting to me. I don't pretend to be in a position that he was in. I mean, you have this job, you have your boss, it's your livelihood. He did the best that he could, right? I firmly believe that. But oh my gosh, witnessing all of this, witnessing a woman get the living crap kicked out of her. I mean, you got to think back and say, if somebody would have said something or gone to the police, or I don't know, like how many people could have been spared, right? I'm not blaming him, like I said, at all, but I did just sort of sit there and I this did go through my head. But, and, you know, I don't know if you guys got anything like that out of him that maybe you didn't include in the series, or anything about maybe why he didn't come forward, or we can just all kind of assume we know why he didn't come forward. But I was just curious about that.
I mean, I think what he says is, you know, he this was a job, this was an opportunity. He, you know, had not a lot of job opportunities, especially for something that could earn as much money as he was, and people get, you know, tied and caught up in that space. And you know, there's a lot of people that also just have a mistrust in the police broadly as well. And so I'm sure that all of those factors contribute to people's decisions to stay quiet and stay employed.
Right. And like I said, I don't pretend to know what anybody was feeling, what they were dealing with, or, you know, anything like that, because I do respect the fact that, yeah, I wasn't there. I don't know what went down. I don't know the threats that were made. Or, you know, like I said, we don't actually know if people did go to the police or not for other things and they just weren't believed. We really don't know. There might as well be a couple of those people. But now, I mean, I know I've said everybody can watch the series tonight and tomorrow on ID, and then it will stream on Max. But where can people watch your other work as well if they love this and they want to see more of what you guys have done?
Well, I have a few films in addition to Black and Missing on HBO. I have a film about Rosa Parks, which I also did with Soledad on Peacock. And I have a film out on American Experience called American Coup, about the Wilmington, North Carolina insurrection and coup of 1898. Which no one's ever heard of because it was buried, a racial insurrection and racial massacre. And that is available to stream on American Experience, PBS's American Experience.
Cool.
Well, you obviously mentioned Quiet on Set, which is also available on Max. And I would also point you to Maxine Productions, the production company that we are all a part of, where you can see some of our other series that have come out. I don't take personal credit for those, but they're powerful as well, and encourage folks to take a look at those as well.
Well, thank you both so much. Like I said, you both do incredible work. And of course, leave it to two females, you guys, to put together something so incredible like this. That is, I mean, guys, it's ethical, it's captivating, it's disturbing. It's just everything that you need to see, or one needs to see. So thank you so much, Yoruba Richen and Emma Schwartz. I really appreciate your time. And everybody needs to go and watch tonight The Fall of Diddy. You will not be disappointed. Thanks again for joining me.
Thank you for the conversation and the interest.
Oh, yeah, of course. Of course. Thanks again.